Today's topic is one that almost every English learner asks about. How can I think in English?
Yes, most learners first translate everything from their native language into English and then back again. That makes speaking slow and sometimes frustrating.
Exactly. But here's the good news. Thinking directly in English is possible, and it's one of the biggest steps you can take to feel confident and natural when you speak. In this episode, we'll talk about why it's hard to think in English, why it's so important, and most importantly, how you can train your brain to do it.
We'll share some practical tips, common mistakes to avoid, and even a short practice exercise that you can try right away.
So, stay with us for the next 30 minutes. We promise it will change the way you approach learning English.
All right, let's get started. Before we jump into today's topic, Jake, do you remember the first time you tried to think in another language?
Oh yes, I was learning Spanish a few years ago. I remember walking into a cafe in Madrid and I wanted to order coffee. In my head, I thought, okay, first think in English, then translate into Spanish, then speak. By the time I finished translating, the waiter was already looking impatient.
Oh, I can imagine that moment. I had a similar experience in France. I wanted to buy a train ticket, but in my head, I was thinking, I need one ticket. How do I say that in French? And I got so nervous that I mixed English and French together. The ticket seller was so confused.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's something many of our listeners can relate to. When you're still translating in your head, it takes so much time, and sometimes the words just disappear.
That's true, and sometimes you're not even sure if the translation is correct. I remember once I wanted to say I'm full after eating, but I translated it directly and said something that actually meant I'm pregnant in another language.
Everyone laughed. Oh no, that's such a classic mistake. But you know what, Lily? These little stories are proof that making mistakes is completely normal.
Exactly, and that's why today's topic is so important. Thinking directly in English can save you from these funny but sometimes embarrassing situations. And it makes speaking so much faster and more natural.
So, let's dive deeper and see why thinking in English feels so difficult at first. So, Lily, let's start with the big question. Why is it so hard for learners to think directly in English?
Great question. The main reason is habits. From the moment we're born, our brains are trained to use our native language for everything. Thinking, speaking, even dreaming. So when you start learning English, your brain automatically wants to translate from your first language.
That makes sense. It's like the brain already has one strong pathway, and now it has to build a new one for English.
Exactly. And building that new pathway takes time and practice. Another reason is vocabulary. Many learners don't have enough words stored in English yet, so translation feels safer. It's like a backup system.
Yes, and I've also noticed that grammar plays a role. Learners often try to create the perfect sentence in their head before speaking. They think, is this correct? Do I need past tense? What about articles? And all that thinking makes the process even slower, right?
And then comes the pressure. When you're in a real conversation, you don't have much time. The other person is waiting for your answer, and that can make you nervous. I remember a student telling me, when I speak English, my brain feels like a computer loading a page very slowly.
That's a great description. And it's not because they're bad at English. It's just that the brain is switching between two languages.
So, listeners, if you feel this way, please remember it's completely normal. Every language learner goes through this stage.
Yes, and the good news is, with the right strategies, you can train your brain to skip translation and think directly in English.
Exactly. And that's what we'll focus on today. But before we give strategies, let's talk about why it's worth the effort. Why thinking in English can really change your learning experience.
So, Lily, Now that we know why it's hard to think in English, let's talk about the good side. What are the benefits of learning to do it?
Oh, there are so many. The first big benefit is speed. When you think directly in English, you can speak much faster. No more long pauses while translating in your head.
Yes, and I've seen that with my students. When they finally stop translating, their sentences flow more naturally, and conversations feel smoother.
Another benefit is listening. If your brain is always translating into your native language, you can fall behind and miss parts of a conversation. But if you train yourself to process English directly, it's easier to keep up even with native speakers.
That's so true. I remember when I was learning French, the moment I started thinking in French, suddenly movies and podcasts became much easier to understand. It felt like my brain was finally in tune with the language.
Exactly. And here's another one: confidence. When you're not worried about translating, you feel more relaxed and free to speak. You're not stuck thinking, wait, is this right in my language first? You just communicate.
Yes, and that confidence makes people want to talk with you more. And the more you talk, the faster you improve. It's like a positive cycle.
And let's not forget, it's fun. Thinking in English allows you to enjoy jokes, songs, and even your own thoughts in a new way. It's like having a different version of yourself inside your mind.
I love that idea. Your English self.
Yes, exactly. So, to summarize, thinking in English makes you faster, helps you understand more, builds your confidence, and makes the whole learning process more enjoyable.
Perfect. And I'm sure our listeners want to know, how can they start training their brain to do this?
That's the exciting part. We're going to share practical strategies you can use every day.
All right, let's start with the first strategy. Keep it simple. Don't try to think in big, complicated sentences right away.
Yes, begin with small, everyday phrases. For example, instead of trying to create a long story in English, just think, I'm hungry. It's sunny. I like coffee.
Exactly. And you can also narrate your daily actions in English. For instance, when you wake up, say in your head, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm making breakfast. I'm going to work.
That's such a good exercise because it connects English directly to your daily life. It makes English feel natural, like part of your routine. And don't worry about mistakes. At this stage, it's more important to get comfortable thinking in short, clear sentences.
The second strategy is to avoid mental translation.
This is one of the hardest habits to break.
Yes, because when you see something, your brain wants to go native language, English. But the goal is to go straight object English word. For example, if you see a chair, don't think chair equals your native word. Instead, just connect the object to the English word chair.
A great way to practice this is with flashcards. Instead of writing translations, put a picture on one side and the English word on the other. That way, your brain builds a direct connection.
Okay, strategy number 3. Use an inner monologue. This one is powerful.
Basically, talk to yourself in English inside your mind. For example, if you're waiting for the bus, think, the bus is late. I hope it comes soon. Maybe I should take a taxi.
Yes, it's like being your own narrator. You don't need anyone else, just your thoughts.
And if you don't know a word, don't panic. Try to explain it in simple English. For example, if you can't remember the word umbrella, say, the thing I use when it rains.
That's a great trick. It keeps your brain in English mode instead of jumping back to your native language.
The fourth strategy is to surround yourself with English. The more you hear and read English, the easier it becomes to think in it.
Yes, music, podcasts, YouTube videos, movies, even social media posts. Make English part of your daily environment.
And here's the key. Don't just listen or read passively. After you hear a phrase, repeat it in your mind or use it in a sentence. For example, if you hear, That's amazing in a TV show. Repeat it in your head and imagine when you might use it yourself.
Exactly. This active practice helps your brain absorb English patterns naturally.
And finally, strategy number 5. Use your imagination.
Yes, imagine yourself in different situations and have conversations in your mind in English. For example, pretend you're at a restaurant ordering food, or at the airport asking for directions.
Or even imagine talking to a celebrity or your favorite YouTuber. It doesn't matter if it's real. What matters is that you're practicing thinking and responding in English. And the fun part is, your imagination has no limits. You can practice any situation, anytime, even without a partner.
So, those are our 5 strategies. Keep it simple, avoid translation, use an inner monologue, surround yourself with English, and practice with imagination.
If you practice even one of these every day, you'll notice big changes in the way your brain processes English.
All right, so we've shared the strategies, but Lily, I think it's also important to talk about the common mistakes learners should avoid.
Definitely.
One of the biggest mistakes is word-for-word translation. Learners try to take a sentence from their language and translate every single word into English. But the problem is, languages don't always match one-to-one.
Exactly. For example, in some languages, you might say, I have 20 years to talk about age. But in English, we say, I am 20 years old. If you translate word for word, it sounds strange.
That's right. Another mistake is focusing too much on grammar when you're trying to think in English. Learners pause and think, is this present perfect or past simple? And by the time they decide, the conversation has already moved on.
Yes. And the truth is, it's better to say something simple and maybe not perfect than to say nothing at all. People will understand you and you'll get more confident with time.
And here's another mistake: being afraid of making mistakes. Some learners stop themselves from thinking in English because they want every sentence to be 100% correct.
That's so true. But mistakes are part of the process. Actually, the more you practice, even with mistakes, the faster you'll improve.
So, to sum up, don't translate word for word. Don't get stuck on grammar. And don't let fear stop you. Thinking in English is about progress, not perfection.
Beautifully said, Jake. And now that we know what to avoid, why don't we give our listeners a chance to practice thinking in English with us?
Okay, listeners, now it's your turn. Let's do a short exercise together to practice thinking in English. Don't worry, it's simple and fun.
Yes, wherever you are, at home, walking, or even sitting on a bus, just follow along in your mind.
All right, first step. Look around you. Choose 5 objects you can see right now. Don't translate, just name them in English. For example, table, phone, window, bag, shoes.
I'll try with what's around me right now. Microphone, notebook, laptop, chair, coffee cup.
Perfect. Okay, second step. Make one simple sentence about each object. For example, the table is brown. My phone is on the table.
All right, here are mine. The microphone is black. My notebook is open. The laptop is on the desk. The chair is comfortable. My coffee cup is empty.
Nice. And listeners, don't worry if your sentences are very simple. That's exactly the point. The goal is to train your brain to think directly in English.
Exactly.
Now, third step. Imagine a situation. For example, you are in a cafe. What would you say in English? Maybe, "Can I have a coffee, please?" Or, "How much is the sandwich?"
Yes, that's a great practice. Listeners, take just 10 seconds right now. Imagine you're in a cafe and think of 1 or 2 sentences you could say in English.
I'll share mine. Can I get a cappuccino, please? And do you have any cake today?
That's excellent! And listeners, whatever you thought of, that's real practice. You just spent a few minutes thinking in English instead of translating. And if you make this a daily habit, even for 5 minutes, your brain will get faster and faster.
Exactly. So keep practicing this little exercise on your own.
All right, before we finish, let's do a quick review of what we talked about today.
Yes. First, we learned why thinking in English feels difficult. It's because of habits, translation, grammar worries, and sometimes pressure in conversations. Then we looked at the benefits. You'll speak faster, understand better, feel more confident, and even enjoy English more.
And of course, we shared 5 practical strategies. Keep your sentences simple. Avoid translation. Use an inner monologue. Surround yourself with English. And practice with your imagination. Plus, we talked about common mistakes to avoid, like word-for-word translation, overthinking grammar, and being afraid of mistakes.
And finally, we did a little exercise together to practice thinking in English right now.
So, the big takeaway is this. Don't wait for perfect English. Start practicing thinking in English every day, even for a few minutes, and you'll see big progress.
That brings us to the end of today's episode of Modern English Talk.
Yes, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We hope these tips help you start thinking in English more naturally every day.
Remember, practice a little bit every day. Simple sentences, inner monologues, or even short imagination exercises. It all adds up.
And don't be afraid of mistakes. Every mistake is just a step forward in your learning journey. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And share this podcast with a friend who's also learning English.
We'll be back soon with more practical English learning tips.
Until then, keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep thinking in English.
Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.